Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive,
Hi.
where we're going to be looking at this guide I found called Mindful Minutes, which basically is all about these mindfulness techniques that you can do in just 60 seconds. And I think this is super relevant
Yeah.
for anyone, really, especially if you're a student trying to get focused,
Right.
manage all that stress and stuff.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, like, we often think mindfulness has to be this big commitment, but just taking like these tiny pockets of time to be mindful can make a big difference.
Oh,
Okay.
and before we get into the actual techniques, maybe you could give us a little refresher on what mindfulness is
Yeah.
and why it's so good for learning.
Yeah. So mindfulness, it's really all about tuning into like the present moment,
Okay.
what you're sensing, what you're feeling and thinking, and doing it without judgment. It's like hitting the pause button on all that like
Yeah.
mental chatter and just being present. And for students, they've got so much going on, all the distractions, the
Yeah,
pressure.
it's constantly bombarded with
Yeah.
information and
And
stuff.
it's information overload. So it's really helpful for them to have that space to
Yeah.
breathe,
Yeah.
to refocus, to manage those big emotions that come up.
Right, because if you're constantly feeling overwhelmed or anxious, it's going to be hard to focus on studying and stuff.
Yeah, studies have shown that mindfulness can actually improve attention span, boost working memory,
Real.
and even enhance creativity.
Oh.
So it's like giving your brain a workout, strengthening those mental muscles that you need for learning.
I love that. So we've got the what now. Let's get into the how.
Okay.
So this guide lays out like 8 techniques, and they only take a minute each.
Yeah.
I'm curious to dive into these because, I've tried mindfulness before, but it's hard to like keep up with it sometimes.
Yeah, I hear that. And that's why these mindful minutes are so great, because
Right.
it makes it super accessible even if you're super busy. So should we start with the first one?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, so the first one is a classic. It's called focused breathing.
Okay.
And you've probably heard of it, but it's pretty amazing how powerful it can be. So the guide suggests this ratio. So you inhale through your nose for a count of 4,
Okay.
hold for 4, and then exhale slowly through your mouth for 6.
Okay, so that seems simple enough. But why is that particular ratio so important?
It's all about like hacking your nervous system.
Okay.
So when you're breathing deeply and slowly like that,
Yeah.
you're actually like sending a signal to your brain
Right.
to chill out.
Mm-hmm.
It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's rest and digest mode.
Got it.
So if you're feeling stressed or anxious, a few rounds of this breathing exercise can really help calm things down.
So it's like a quick reset
Yes, exactly.
for your brain.
A reset button.
Love it.
Okay, the next technique is called a body scan.
Okay.
And it's all about bringing your attention to the physical sensations in your body,
Yeah.
starting from your toes, and you slowly move all the way up to your head.
So I've heard of this, but I have to admit, sometimes it feels a little weird. Like, what am I supposed to be actually
Yeah.
noticing?
That's a great question. The key is to just observe the sensations without judging them. So maybe you're noticing warmth, tingling, pressure, tightness, or even like a sense of spaciousness.
Okay.
The point is not to change anything, just to become aware of what's happening in your body.
So it's like you're taking inventory,
Yes,
but with your senses.
exactly.
I can see how that would be really grounding, especially if you have like a lot of thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes just by like bringing awareness to a tense area,
Right.
you might even find that it just naturally starts to relax.
Interesting. Okay, what's next?
So next up, we have gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay.
This one is all about shifting your focus to the positive.
Right.
So the guide suggests just taking a minute to think about 3 things that you're grateful for. And they can be small. It can be a sunny day, a delicious cup of coffee,
Yeah.
a kind word from a friend, anything that brings a smile to your face.
I've heard that actually like practicing gratitude can rewire your brain to be more optimistic. Is that true?
There is truth to that. Research has shown that gratitude can actually increase neural activity in the areas of the brain
Wow.
associated with happiness and reward.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's like training your brain to focus on the good stuff,
Right.
which can have a ripple effect on your mood, your relationships, and even your physical health.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment, but it's creating lasting change.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, what else?
All right, ready for the next one?
Yeah.
This one is all about tuning into your senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch.
Ooh, tell me more.
Okay, so the guide suggests spending about 15 seconds with each sense and really paying attention to the details.
Okay.
So what do you see around you? What do you hear? What can you smell? Is there anything you can taste? And what are you physically touching?
That's such a cool idea, and I love how it's so simple.
Right.
But it seems like a really good way to ground yourself.
It really is, and it's especially helpful if you're finding yourself getting lost in thought or feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
By bringing your attention back to your senses, you're gently redirecting your focus
Okay.
to what's happening right here, right now.
I like this one. I'm going to add this one to my list to try.
Awesome.
Okay, what's next?
So next up, we have mindful listening.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right, so for this technique, you can close your eyes or soften your gaze and just tune in to the sounds around you. It could be the hum of a computer,
Right.
birds chirping outside, or the sound of traffic in the distance. And the key is to just observe those sounds without judging them or getting caught up in the stories behind them.
I feel like that's a great skill for students to develop,
Yes,
especially when it comes to like listening in class.
absolutely. Mindful listening can help improve focus, comprehension, and even memory.
Wow.
It's like training your ears to be more attentive
Right.
and receptive.
That would be good for like all areas of life, not just in school.
It's true.
Okay, so we've covered breathing, body scan, gratitude senses, and mindful listening.
Yeah.
What else is in this mindfulness toolkit?
Okay, the next one is a classic confidence booster, positive affirmations.
Ooh, I love affirmations.
Me
Do
too.
you have a favorite one?
Well, the guide doesn't prescribe specific affirmations because it's really about finding ones that resonate with you personally.
Okay.
But the idea is to choose a phrase that reflects a quality you want to cultivate. Like, I am capable, I am worthy, or
Yeah.
I am resilient, and then repeat it silently to yourself
Okay.
for a whole minute.
So it's like planting that little seed
Exactly.
of positivity.
Yes.
And I've also heard that repeating affirmations can rewire your brain to believe them, even if you don't at first.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's all about creating new neural pathways and strengthening those positive beliefs.
I'm going to make an affirmation board.
Awesome.
Okay, we have 2 more techniques to go. What's next?
Okay, next up, we have mindful movement.
Ooh. I like to move.
This one's fun. So for this technique, you can either stand up or stay seated.
Okay,
The key is to move your body with intention and awareness.
got it.
So the guide suggests some simple movements like stretching, rotating your shoulders, or gently swaying from side to side.
It's like a little dance break
Exactly.
for your brain.
A mini dance break.
I love it.
And it's a great way to release any tension that might be building up in your body.
Okay, and last but not least.
Okay, last but not least, we have visualization.
Ooh, tell me more.
This is one of my personal favorites.
Okay.
You close your eyes and imagine yourself in a peaceful and relaxing place.
Okay.
It could be a beach, a forest, a mountaintop, or anywhere that feels calming and safe for you. And the guide suggests spending a full minute immersed in this visualization, bringing in as many sensory details as you can.
Yeah.
So what do you see, hear, smell, feel, and even taste?
Wow, this is making me feel relaxed just thinking about it.
Me too. Visualization is such a powerful tool for reducing stress, boosting creativity, and even improving performance.
Right.
Athletes use it all the time to mentally rehearse for competitions.
So we've covered all 8 mindful minute techniques.
Yes, we have.
I'm already feeling zen.
Me too. And the best part is they're so easy to add into your day.
I'm already thinking about how I could do that.
Awesome.
So before we move on to part 2, any final thoughts on these mindful minutes?
Yeah, I think it's just important to remember that mindfulness is not about being perfect or emptying your mind.
Okay.
It's about just noticing what's happening within you and around you
Right.
without judgment.
Right.
And if you find your mind wandering, that's totally normal and okay. Just gently bring it back to the present moment.
So what are some practical ways people can apply these?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about
Okay, perfect.
for part 2.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got all these great mindful minute techniques, and I'm feeling super inspired, but how can students specifically benefit from doing this stuff?
That is such a good question. And I think it's helpful to picture a student in a common situation, like feeling overwhelmed before a big test.
Oh yeah, I remember those days, the heart racing, the mind swirling, thinking about all the things you might have forgotten.
Exactly. And so instead of letting that anxiety take over, imagine that student taking just 1 minute to do some focused breathing.
Okay.
Those deep, slow breaths, they would activate their parasympathetic nervous system,
Right.
signaling the body to relax and the mind to calm down.
So it's like hitting the pause button on that stress response.
Precisely. And then once they're feeling a little bit more grounded, they could try a quick visualization. So they close their eyes and picture themselves walking into the exam room, feeling prepared and focused.
It's like mental rehearsal for success.
Exactly. And I mean, that's just one example, right?
Right.
Mindfulness can really be a game changer for students in so many ways.
Yeah.
Think about note-taking during a really long lecture.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to zone out, but if you did like a quick mindful listening exercise, that would bring your attention right back to the present moment.
Yeah.
And you'd be able to absorb that information way more effectively.
Because you're not just passively hearing it, but you're like actively engaging.
Exactly. And it's not even just about academics.
Right.
Mindfulness can also help students with those social and emotional ups and downs that just come with being a student. So like, let's say you're super stressed about a group project.
Okay.
You could take a minute and do a gratitude practice, focusing on like all the positive parts of that collaboration.
Right.
Or let's say you're having an argument with your roommate. You could do a body scan to help you regulate those emotions.
Yeah.
And then approach that situation with more calmness and clarity.
So it's like equipping yourself
Yeah.
with the tools to handle whatever comes your way.
I love that it's about being like the captain of your own mental ship.
Okay, so we've got the test stress, note-taking, the social stuff. What are some other ways students could use these techniques?
Well, think about procrastination, which is like a classic struggle for students.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And mindfulness can really help you break out of that cycle. So instead of being overwhelmed by this huge task, a student could use a mindful minute to break it down
Right.
into those smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
Or they could use like a positive affirmation to boost their motivation and confidence.
That makes a lot of sense, like shifting from I can't do this to
Exactly.
I can tackle one step at a time.
Exactly. And, you know, it's not even just about using mindfulness for those challenges. It can also enhance like those times when you're feeling good and productive. So let's say a student's working on a creative project, but they're feeling stuck or uninspired. A mindful movement break could help release that pent-up energy, clear the mental cobwebs,
Right.
and spark those new ideas.
Yeah, it's like remembering that your well-being
Yeah.
is just as important as your to-do list.
Exactly. And that one of the things I love about mindfulness, it's not just about fixing problems or managing stress, but it's about cultivating this deeper connection with yourself.
Yeah.
And appreciating the richness of every moment, even the really ordinary ones.
It's finding those moments of peace
Yeah.
amidst all the chaos.
Exactly. And you know, one of the things that really impressed me about this guide
Okay.
is that it really emphasizes how important it is to experiment.
Okay.
It encourages students to just try all these techniques out and see what works for them.
Because what works for one person
Right.
might not work for another.
Exactly. So maybe you'll find that focused breathing is your go-to before a presentation. But the body scan helps you sleep better at night.
Right.
It's all about playing around and seeing what works best for you.
Love that message of empowerment, like taking ownership of your well-being
Yes.
and finding the practices that work.
Exactly. And just remembering that mindfulness is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah.
There will be days where it's really easy to be present and days where your mind feels like a runaway train.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being kind to yourself
Exactly.
and bringing your attention back
Yeah.
when you notice it drifting.
And, you know, as we're talking about all this stuff, I've also been thinking about how beneficial this could be for teachers, too.
Oh, absolutely. Teachers have incredibly demanding jobs
Yes.
and so much stress.
Yeah.
I bet these techniques would be huge for them.
Imagine a teacher taking a mindful minute to do a gratitude practice before they start teaching, focusing on that joy of connecting with their students
Yeah.
and sharing their love of learning. Or picture them using a body scan to release some tension during a break so they can feel refreshed for the rest of the day.
And I think those benefits would trickle down to the students, too.
Totally.
Like if you have a classroom where both the teacher and the students are practicing mindfulness,
Yeah.
there'd be so much more empathy, the patient's connection.
It would be amazing. And, you know, there's more and more research coming out that's showing mindfulness in schools leads to a better classroom climate, better student behavior, and even better academic performance.
It's amazing to think about the power of these simple practices.
I know, right?
So before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, I'm curious to hear about your experience with mindfulness.
Okay.
Have you tried any of these techniques?
Oh, yeah, I have. And, you know, I used to be really skeptical of it.
Really?
I thought it was all about emptying your mind and sitting in silence,
Yeah,
which just didn't seem realistic or appealing to me.
I feel you.
But then I started experimenting with some of these quicker practices.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised by how much they helped.
Mhm.
One technique that I really connected with was that focus on the senses exercise.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's so simple, but so powerful.
Yeah, and there was this one time when I was just feeling totally overwhelmed with deadlines, and my to-do list was crazy long, and my mind was just racing with all these anxious thoughts.
Oh, I can imagine.
I was about to have a full-blown panic attack,
Wow.
but then I remembered the senses exercise.
Okay.
I closed my eyes, took a few deep breaths, and started paying attention to everything around me. The warmth of the sun, the sound of the refrigerator, the feeling of my feet on the floor.
Wow.
And it was incredible. It was like my anxiety just melted away
Yeah.
as I focused on those sensations.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like this reminder that I was safe, I was grounded, I was present.
Right.
And from that place of calm, I was actually able to tackle my to-do list way better.
That's a perfect example of how mindfulness can help us get through those tough times and feel that sense of peace again.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, the more I practice these mindful minutes, the more I realize it's not about reaching some perfect state of Zen.
Right.
It's about learning to be more gentle and compassionate with myself,
I love that.
even when things are difficult.
It's such an important message for all of us, no matter what
Yes.
we're doing.
So before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, what are some final thoughts about these mindful minutes?
Well, I'd love to share this idea from the guide that really resonated with me.
Okay.
What if instead of thinking of mindfulness as just another thing to do, we thought of it as a gift
Okay.
of presence, awareness, and connection,
I like that.
not just for yourself, but for everyone around you.
That's like shifting from obligation to opportunity.
Exactly.
And then mindfulness becomes less about striving and more about savoring.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe these small mindful moments will spark a lifelong journey for you.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive,
Thanks.
exploring how students and teachers can benefit from these practices. And now in the final part, we're going to be exploring some even deeper insights.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been exploring like the why, the how of these mindful minutes. But now I kind of want to go a little deeper. Is it really more than just, stressing less?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it can really be about cultivating a different way of just being in the world.
Okay.
And this guide talks about this really cool idea of mindfulness as a path to self-awareness. And it makes sense, right? The more you pay attention to your thoughts, feelings, and body sensations, the more you really start to understand your own inner world.
So you're becoming a curious observer.
Yes.
In your own mind.
And that self-awareness is so valuable.
Okay.
So imagine a student who always procrastinates.
Okay.
Through mindfulness, they might start noticing those little cues, that feeling of restlessness, the urge to check social media that usually come right before they fall into that procrastination trap.
So they're recognizing their own warning system.
Precisely. And that awareness gives them the power to choose a different path.
Right.
Maybe they take a mindful minute to breathe, or they use an affirmation to refocus.
That's powerful. It's it gives you the space to make a choice instead of just being on autopilot.
Exactly. And this guide also talks about something really important.
Okay.
Being kind to yourself during this whole process. Mindfulness isn't about being perfectly zen all the time.
Right.
It's about noticing when your mind wanders, which it will.
Yeah, of course.
And just gently guiding it back to the present moment.
Because beating yourself up over it is just going to make you more stressed.
Totally.
Which is the opposite of what we're going for.
Right. It defeats the purpose. And that whole idea of self-compassion really stuck with me. I think it's a huge part of making mindfulness a regular thing in your life.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope people take away from all of this?
If I had to pick just one, it would be this: mindfulness is a practice, not a perfection.
I like that.
It's about those small, consistent moments, even if it's just 60 seconds here and there.
Right.
But when you add those moments up over time, they can really change your well-being, your relationships, your whole experience of life.
So well said. And, as we're talking about all this, I'm realizing there's this funny connection to something we all do as podcast listeners.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, we often multitask while we're listening, right?
Roger?
Folding laundry, doing the dishes, maybe even scrolling through social media.
Yeah, sometimes.
But what if we took a mindful minute before we hit play?
Hmm.
Just close our eyes, take a few deep breaths, and set an intention to really listen to the podcast.
That's such a cool idea. It's like creating this mindful space.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe they can make the podcast even better.
Yeah, I love that it reminds us that mindfulness isn't just about formal meditation,
Right.
but it's about bringing that sense of presence into anything we do, even listening to a podcast.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to experiment, try these techniques out, see what works for you. And remember, even one mindful minute can make a difference. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.